Welcome! Welcome to an explanation of the brain type of Donald Trump. First of all, if you're not familiar with brain types, I will summarize it very quickly. When you are born with 100 billion brain cells, and almost none of these brain cells has any connection to other brain cells because you haven't learned that much yet. Nevertheless, there is a innate learning machine deep inside your brain, and this innate learning machine actually consists of 7 primary emotions. These have been discovered by a neuroscientist called Jaak Panksepp, and these are 3 negatives: anger, fear and sadness, as you can see in the heart of the model, and the 4 positive ones: play, care, seeking and lust. These help you learn new behaviors because they are connected, these 7 primary emotions, to consequences. The negative emotions to negative consequences, and the positive emotions to positive consequences. And we learn what we do in our life, we do because it results in positive consequences, and we refrain from behaviors that lead to negative consequences. And then what happens is that these 7 primary emotions, they bootstrap your brain for certain learnings, and depending on which of these 7 emotions, primary emotions, are the strongest inside your brain, then you learn what is normally called personality, but what is really evolutionary behavioral patterns. And these are best captured by cybernetic Big Five theory of Colin de Jong. These are actually learned during your lifetime, but they are pretty much a copy of the initial learning machine as described by Jaak Panksepp. So without further ado, let's jump into the brain type of Donald Trump. He has a type 3 brain, also called SALS. SALS stands for sadness, anger, lust and seeking. And these are the 4 most important primary emotions that run around in Donald Trump's brain. The first one, sadness, is his basic emotion, basic negative emotion that is always there. And you have to understand sadness in a special way, because it is basically a two-headed monster, because it is separation anxiety. And this means that it really ties into his lust for material rewards, we'll see later, his sensitivity to material rewards, and the anxiety of the separation anxiety slash sadness really is about trying to get as much material rewards as possible, and these are money, food and sex. If you have it, then this anxiety, or even a sort of kind of panic feeling, a feeling of panic starts to happen in his brain, where he wants to keep it. And then when he is losing it, when he lost money, food or sex, then he gets this feeling of sadness. So that is why there are 2 sides of this coin. On one hand, as long as the material rewards are still his, Trump will feel separation anxiety. But as soon as he has lost them, he will feel sadness. So that's the first S. The second is the A, it's anger. And anger is how his stress works. So as soon as he gets stressed, he gets angry. And he gets angry in basically, angry bouts. So he will suddenly become very angry, go, "Arr!" And this is just a stress reaction. In reality, there's nothing happening that much. He's not that angry. He basically has to play act anger if he's not stressed. But he uses this anger as a way to express his stress, or behave in his stress behaviors. The L stands for lust. Lust has a very specific meaning here. It means lust for material rewards, I already mentioned them, basically money, which is an indirect material reward, food and sex. There are others, jewelry for instance, but these three are the most important ones. And that means that Trump will always lust after these three things. He will always want to have more money, more food and more sex. And the S is seeking. That is when he relaxes. When he relaxes, then he starts to philosophize, he starts to think about stuff, and he starts to seek ways of getting more material rewards, but in a more indirect way, in a more, long-term strategies rather than short-term strategies. But it's only happening when he relaxes. So in the same way that anger only happens when he stresses, seeking long-term strategies to gain more material rewards only happens when he's actually relaxed. Of course, if you look in his behavior, you can see that he's almost always angry. So yeah, he's pretty much stressed out throughout his, well, at least these couple of 5 to 10 years that we have seen him so much on the public stage. He comes across as very angry, and it works two ways. So if he's stressed, he will become angry, or acts out angry, and if he's if he's angry, then he's also becoming stressed. So there's no doubt that he is stressed out of his mind. And you can also see that that means that he does very limited thinking and seeking of long-term strategies to improve his material reward. It's all very much, very short-term, and that has to do with the fact that he's just way too stressed. So talking about stress and relaxation, there are basically three different states in the brain. The brain can either be stressed, it can be relaxed, or it can be in between stress and relaxation, and it's what I call the neutral state. So if you look at the scheme, then you can see that the blue area is basically what Trump is doing when he is in the neutral zone. The red part is what he's doing in the stressed zone, or when the stress behaviors that he does when he is stressed. And the green ones are is relaxation behavior, but again we see very little of that because he is stressed out of his mind and not that relaxed at all. So if you look at the blue area, you can see that the outer ring, that's the most abstract ring, that here has a combination of exploitation and autonomy. What that means is that basically, again, his brain, due to the lust as a primary emotion, scores so high, and that is basically a longing for material rewards, or at least or the pleasure that you get when you receive material rewards. It also means that his brain is pretty much into exploitation, which means how can I exploit the world in such a way that that I achieve my goals as efficient as possible. Exploitation is all about efficiency, and that means that he also thinks, okay, how can I achieve my goals as efficient as possible? And he scores when he is in the neutral zone. He scores also high on autonomy. And autonomy means that he wants to create his own goals and his own strategies and does not want to follow along with the group. He doesn't want to go along with group goals or group strategies. He is much more interested in creating his own goals and his own strategies. So normally he would score high on exploiting the world, getting to his goals as efficiently as possible, and at the same time focus on his own goals. Now the interesting part is that if you do too much of this, if you do too much exploitation, it becomes rigidity, and if you do too much autonomy, it becomes egoism. Now Trump has often been accused of egoism, so you can see that he basically does that autonomy part too much. Whether he also does the exploitation part too much, I'm not familiar with. When you do the autonomy and the exploitation part, you also score high on extraversion. So Trump scores high on extraversion, and that means extraversion is often misunderstood. People think it's about extroverted behavior. Of course, Trump is pretty much extroverted in his behavior, but that's not the point. The more important point is that, again, extraversion means that he is highly sensitive to material rewards. And you can all, I'm not sure whether you can read it, but two small dots are the most detailed part. And there you can see that extraversion falls out in assertiveness and enthusiasm. Assertiveness is basically longing for material rewards, the desire therefore, and that desire will make sure that you will act more extroverted, that you will more, try to lead, and that you try to make sure that you're the first in line and that you get all the material rewards for yourself. And enthusiasm is about enjoying material rewards. So he can actually really enjoy if he makes more money, and then he can also really enjoy it. Of course, due to the sadness factor, that is his primary negative emotion. And that means that with separation anxiety, if he makes money, then he starts to get some panic feeling, that anxiety feeling that he might lose it. And the big verdicts where he had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars really hurt him, because that is the sadness and separation anxiety really ties into penalties. So if you give him a penalty emotionally, that is what hurts him most. Anger is associated with punishment. So in times of stress he likes to deal out punishment, but also if he's punished, that will also impact him, but not so much as penalties. He is more, his brain is more impacted by penalties than by punishments. Also, you can see that he does not score high on fear. Fear plays no, of course, there's always a little bit of fear, but compared to the sadness and anger, there's hardly any fear in the brain. And this is all, fear is associated with threats, and that means that threatening Donald Trump makes no impact, or almost no impact, on his brain. So that was the neutral behaviors. If we then look at the stressed behaviors, then you can see that he moves in times of stress towards away from autonomy and exploitation, towards stability, and this is mainly social stability. So when he's stressed, he's actually quite dependent on the group. What happens is that often the stress is related to a lack of material rewards. For instance, there are stories where people say he went into politics to make more money. He needed more money. He had lots of debts, and that is and if that was the case, if debts led to him moving into politics, it's very easy to understand from his brain type, because that is the normal reaction. The type 3, being as sensitive to material rewards as he is, starts to stress when there is the anxiety of separating from all the wealth that he has. And then his solution is, okay, I have to go out to the people, I have to create social stability around me. The basic reason why I'm not getting all the material rewards that I am entitled to is because I have not connected enough with people, I didn't network enough, I didn't enlarge my social circles enough. So the idea that in times of stress, the type 3 moves into social behaviors that promote social stability, and of course politics is there a big one. And then he's also going to score high on agreeableness, but you have to remember these are all stress behaviors. Agreeableness, high score on agreeableness means that he can connect with people, that he can relate to people, that people like him, that they think he's a great guy. And these are, of course, necessary behaviors in order to improve social stability. But you have to remember this is stress behavior, and although he can play act as if, it's still stressed for him, and he still doesn't feel it really as this is an authentic part of me. He really feels like, okay, this is just what I do in order to deal with my stress. And this is the fastest way to get out of stress, get back to my neutral zone or even relaxation. And that will especially happen if it means that I make it big in terms of material rewards, especially money in the case of Trump. And that's also the reason why he can now and then say stuff that basically is well, it's not a Freudian slip, but it is a brain type slip, where he says, well, I don't care about you at all, I just need your votes. And that is, and of course he can do it in a way that is highly agreeable, but it shows that what is behind the agreeableness is stress behavior, and that it is not a authentic wish to create more social stability. It's just a way to get out of stress and get back to getting more material rewards. Then the agreeableness has two most detailed behaviors. It is compassion and politeness, which of course are not really what is Trump known for. On the other hand, he has a lot of compassion with his own fan base. If you adore Trump, then he will also have empathy with you. And he is known for cursing and giving people nicknames, of negative nicknames. But yet again, he also tries to be polite. But again, these are all stress behaviors. They're not authentic, and they're more like a form of play acting than anything else. If he were to relax, which again is not that, doesn't seem to happen that often, then he would move into the green area, where he would be a combination of exploration and autonomy. And then he would explore his inner self world, the outer world, much more looking for new goals and new strategies. He would do more risk assessment, more philosophy, more thinking. This will be the combination of open for reasoning and detached. Detachment here is the lack of low sensitivity to material rewards. And he would play second fiddle and be unmoved. And maybe he does like, he is like this in his private time, when there are no cameras, but it's not what we see on stage. So that's basically the model. This will result in particular behaviors, especially a couple of things. First of all, the people who are into, where the primary emotion, sadness, is the most strong, the separation anxiety slash sadness, they really think that in order to gain power, people need to love you. So ironically, if you look at the behaviors of Trump, whether you like them or not, these are behaviors that are basically trying to get you to love him. He really loves it when people love him, because his brain, again, this is very unconsciously, think, okay, if people love you, then they will not kill you, and then they will support you, and that is how you gain power. And the the most core motivation or drive of Donald Trump is actually get people to love him, and that's also why he is so very can handle criticism so really badly. Because his brain also thinks that in order to get people to love you, you have to come across as being very successful. If you look at all the weird lies, and we get into the deceit and lying in a moment, but especially, for instance, at the beginning of his presidency, where he made such a big fuss that he had a bigger crowd than Obama, where obviously every single picture showed that his crowd was much smaller. The reason why he can't stand that is that accepting that he had a smaller crowd than Obama meant that he also was less successful than Obama, and that meant that he would be less loved than Obama. So again, you see that this drive to get people to love him is what really is behind a lot of this weird behavior that Trump is exhibiting. I was already talking about the deceit, because this also ties into the deceit. Again, because his brain thinks in order to survive, in order to gain power, I need people to love me. People will only love me if they see how successful I am. For that reason, I'm going to build an image of being super successful. And this, of course, is done through deceit. He will actually present himself as much bigger, much greater, much richer, whatever. Everything has to go over the top, far beyond reality, far beyond how it is in real life, just to make sure that people get this image of success, so they will love him. And this is all built on deceit. And so if you ask why is Trump a pathological liar, then this is due to the fact that his brain thinks, okay, I only get power if people love me. People will only love me if I'm successful, if I'm perceived as being successful. So I'm going to build this huge image of myself of being hyper successful so that everybody will love me. And then again, if you criticize him, he will not deal with the criticism, but his brain unconsciously will think, oh, this is someone who criticizes me. So this is someone who does not see how successful I am. For that reason, he doesn't love me. And because he doesn't love me, he wants to kill me. This is a very primitive way the survival instinct works. Again, these are not conscious thoughts of Trump, but that is the reason why he is so extremely bad at dealing with criticisms. And you can combine that with the issue of egoism, too much autonomy, rigidity, maybe, too much exploitation. But we also get into too much extraversion. So extraversion, again, is much more the sensitivity to material rewards rather than the acting extroverted. The acting extroverted is only a indirect way connected with extraversion, in the sense that it is more likely that if you act extroverted that you get more material rewards. But the real drive behind it is to get more material rewards, more money, food, sex. But if you do too much extraversion, and I think that is clearly the case with Donald Trump, then you get a situation where extraversion turns into antisocial personality disorder. So if you desire material rewards so much, or even too much, then what happens is that you will not take into account the feelings and the lives of other people. Gaining material rewards is much more important for someone who scores too high on extraversion, or is too sensitive to material rewards. If you want the material rewards too much, if you want the money, food, sex too much, then you will act in a way that disregards people's feelings and people's lives. So basically, if you stand between Trump and $1 billion and he can get away with it through murder, then your life will be very much on the line. He really doesn't care whether you're hurt or whether you're or even if you die. What he cares about is whether he gets more material rewards or not. To be clear, the full definition of antisocial behavior also denies the rights of the person. So he not only disregards the feelings and life, but also the rights of the person. And that is something that, we can see where he has no regard for the rule of law whatsoever. But for me, because this model is based on evolutionary behavioral patterns, this model is based on basically structures that have been in our brain for the last 20,000 years, and we don't have the rule of law for the last 20,000 years. For that reason, I don't mention it mostly of the time, but in this case, it is worth mentioning it. So there you have it. These are all the reasons why Trump has a type 3 brain. If you want to learn more about brain types, then you can check out the neurogram. It's the model that I developed that you can see here on the right for the brain type 3. In total there are 9 brain types. But you can also do a free brain type test. It is done through WhatsApp. You have to install WhatsApp and then send the free test message to the number below. And then our AI will contact you through WhatsApp, and he will ask you all the questions to determine what your brain type is. So that's it for today, and hopefully you will look into these kind of videos in the future once more. Bye!